This is about Claude, a daily digest of news and discourse about the AI I keep coming back to. Whether you're a budding power user or merely Claude curious, we aim to keep you informed and help you make sense of where Claude is headed. Over the past few weeks, a question has been circulating in tech coverage. Is Claude Code Anthropic's ChatGPT moment? The viral testimonials, the doubled web traffic. Jensen Huang calling it incredible. A senior Google engineer saying it recreated a year's worth of work in an hour. On Friday, Fortune published a lengthy interview with Boris Cherny, the head of Claude Code at Anthropic. And buried in the piece is a line that reframes everything. For Anthropic, we're an enterprise AI company. We build consumer products, but for us, really, the focus is enterprise. Today, what it means when the company having a viral consumer moment doesn't actually think of itself as a consumer company. Let's start with what Cherny actually said. The Fortune piece ran Friday morning, time to cap off a remarkable few weeks for Anthropic. The Constitution release, the Davos headlines, the viral Claude Code testimonials, the reported $10 billion fundraise at a $350 billion valuation. Cherny is the creator of Claude Code. He built the original version as a side project in September 2024. Now he runs the team. He's the person who would know, better than almost anyone, what Anthropic thinks Claude Code actually is. And what he told Fortune is striking. Anthropic is an enterprise AI company. Consumer products exist, but they're not the focus. Think about what that means in context. The past month has been dominated by consumer-facing excitement. People on X sharing screenshots of Claude Code, building apps while they sleep. Non-developers using it to book theatre tickets, file taxes, monitor tomato plants. The ChatGPT moment framing assumes this is about mass adoption, about Claude breaking through to the mainstream the way ChatGPT did in late 2022. But Cherny is saying that's not actually the game we're playing. The viral moment is real. The traffic has doubled. The consumer buzz is a byproduct. The strategy is enterprise. Cherny named names. Claude Code is now used by Uber, Netflix, Spotify, Salesforce, Accenture, and Snowflake. He described a very intense product market fit across the different enterprise spaces. These aren't hobbyists building side projects. These are large organizations with compliance requirements, security concerns, and procurement processes. The kind of customers who sign annual contracts and care deeply about things like HIPAA readiness and prompt injection vulnerabilities. When Cherny talks about Claude Code's success, this is what he means. Not the viral tweets, the enterprise deployments. There's a second revelation in the Fortune piece that helps explain how Anthropic thinks about product development. Cherny described their strategy: develop strong coding capabilities first, test them with technical users, then extend to broader audiences. Claude Code came before Cowork, developers before everyone else. This is the opposite of how most consumer tech companies operate. The usual playbook is build for the mainstream, simplify everything, optimize for onboarding. Anthropic's playbook is build for the hardest users first, let them stress test the capabilities, then package what works for everyone else. Cowork launched a couple of weeks ago. It's essentially Claude Code for non-developers. File management, document creation, the kind of general-purpose agent work that doesn't require a terminal. Cherny told Fortune his team built Cowork in approximately a week and a half. And here's the kicker. They built it largely using Claude Code itself. That's not just a fun detail. It's a proof of concept. The tool that technical users have been testing for months is now capable enough that Anthropic's own team can use it to spin up new products in days. The pipeline works. The ChatGPT moment, as we discussed in a recent episode, was a collision of capability and cultural discovery. Millions of people suddenly realizing what was possible. But ChatGPT was built as a consumer product from the start. OpenAI wanted mass adoption. The API existed, but the chat interface was the thing that broke through. Anthropic's path is different. Claude Code wasn't built for mass adoption. It was built for developers, tested by developers, refined based on developer feedback. The fact that non-developers discovered it and started using it for everything from tax filing to tomato monitoring. That's emergent behavior, not the design intent. The consumer excitement is real, but it's downstream of an enterprise strategy, not the strategy itself. There's a data point that's been circulating in coverage of Anthropic's rise, a Menlo Ventures report claiming that Anthropic holds 32% of the enterprise large language model market share by usage. OpenAI, according to the same report, holds 25%. OpenAI disputes the numbers. But even if you discount them, the direction is clear. Anthropic has been gaining ground in enterprise adoption, and Claude Code is a big part of why. Enterprise customers are different from consumers in ways that matter for AI companies. First, they pay more, a $200 per month. Max subscription is meaningful, but it's nothing compared to an enterprise contract with usage-based pricing across thousands of seats. Second, they're stickier. Once an organization has integrated Claude into its workflows, trained its people, built its processes around the tool, switching costs are high. Consumer users can try ChatGPT one day and Claude the next. Enterprise deployments are commitments. Third, they validate safety claims. When Cherny says Anthropic's safety-first approach resonates with corporate customers concerned about security and compliance, he's describing a competitive advantage that's hard to replicate. Anthropic's brand, the adults in the room positioning, matters more to a Fortune 500 CISO than to someone building a side project. There's a regulatory dimension here too. The EU AI Act reaches full enforcement in August 2026. For enterprises operating in Europe, serving European customers, compliance isn't optional. Anthropic has been positioning for this. The Constitution's 4-tier hierarchy maps remarkably well onto the Act's requirements. The emphasis on human oversight, transparency, ethical behaviour. It reads like a compliance checklist because, in part, it is one. For enterprises in regulated industries, this alignment reduces adoption risk. It's easier to justify choosing Claude when you can point to a public constitution that addresses the regulator's concerns. There's a tension in Anthropic's position that's worth naming. The viral Claude Code moment is genuinely valuable. It's free marketing. It's talent recruitment. It's the kind of cultural relevance that money can't buy. When a senior Google engineer says your tool recreated a year of work in an hour, that's worth more than any ad campaign. But it also creates expectations. People who discovered Claude through the viral moment expect a consumer product roadmap. They want features, pricing, accessibility. They want Anthropic to compete with ChatGPT on ChatGPT's terms. Cherny's interview suggests Anthropic isn't going to do that. The focus remains enterprise. Consumer products exist, Cowork, the Claude.ai interface, the mobile apps. But they're not the main event. If you're optimizing for consumer adoption, you prioritize things like free tiers, viral features, frictionless onboarding, social sharing. If you're optimizing for enterprise adoption, you prioritize things like security certifications, compliance documentation, integration, APIs, account management, reliability guarantees. These aren't mutually exclusive, but they do create different incentive structures. And Cherny's comments suggest Anthropic has made its choice. There's one detail in the Fortune piece that captures the strangeness of the current moment. Even at Microsoft, which sells GitHub Copilot, a competing AI coding tool, Claude Code has reportedly been widely adopted internally. Microsoft engineers building Microsoft products using Anthropic's tool instead of their own. That's not a consumer story. That's an enterprise story. And it suggests that whatever Anthropic is doing is working in ways that transcend the usual competitive boundaries. If you're using Claude as an individual, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, what does the enterprise focus mean for you? Honestly, it might not change much day to day. Anthropic will keep shipping consumer features. Cowork exists. The Claude.ai interface keeps improving. You're not being abandoned, but it does suggest where the investment is going. The capabilities that get prioritized will be the ones that enterprise customers need. Security, reliability, integration, compliance. These aren't glamorous, but they're the foundation that makes everything else possible. And there's an upside. Enterprise-grade tools tend to be robust. When Anthropic builds for customers who can't afford downtime, who need audit trails, who require predictable behavior, the consumer product benefits too. The bigger implication is competitive. If Anthropic is right that enterprise is the real game, then the ChatGPT moment framing misses the point. OpenAI has consumer mindshare. ChatGPT is the household name, but Anthropic apparently is fine with that. They're playing a different game, one measured in enterprise contracts, market share percentages, and compliance certifications. This doesn't mean OpenAI is losing. OpenAI has enterprise offerings too, and they're formidable. But it does suggest that the race everyone's watching, the race for consumer attention, might not be the race that matters most. When everyone's asking, is this Anthropic's ChatGPT moment? Anthropic is asking a different question entirely. Not how do we win consumers, but how do we become the infrastructure that enterprises build on? The viral moment is nice, but infrastructure is the long game. And if Cherny's interview is any indication, that's the game Anthropic is playing. That's all from us, Neil and Claude. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you tomorrow.